Devils, and welcome to another episode of Pro Hockey Pod, episode 79. Back at it with another coach's episode. These things have been getting a lot of views on social media, so I thought might as well keep doing them. And who better to have on than someone I met at a really young age? I remember I was in Boston for a tournament in the summer, and we got to tour UMass-Lowell. And this guest here was an assistant coach there. Met him through a buddy, gave us a tour of a facility there, and that was my first introduction to the NCAA side of hockey. And he himself played NCAA at Niagara University, where eventually I would end up going, and we would cross paths there while he was coaching. Played some professional hockey in Finland, and as I said, got into coaching and has been in the NCAA ever since. Happy to have on the Pro Hockey Pod, Chris MacKenzie.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate being here, and excited to get started.
So we always take it back to memory lane at the start. According to elite prospects, you were born in Niagara Falls or in that area. Like, what's kind of your maybe first childhood memory of growing up there?
I think, I've lived my whole life there in Niagara Falls. First childhood memory, man, we're going real deep here. Probably just, I think, I just turned 50 years old. I want to date myself. I remember being at a drive-in theater in Niagara Falls watching Star Wars. That would have made me 2 or 3 years old. So I mean, we're going way back there. Now people on your pod are probably Googling the hell's a drive-in theater, or maybe they do know. But I spent my whole life in Niagara Falls, played hockey there, kind of growing up. You're playing AAA the whole way through, and then juniors, and then you just, you kind of, never switch teams, right? I think that's a common theme in maybe today's youth hockey, but just kind of stayed in Niagara Falls the whole way through, and was lucky enough to get recruited to Niagara. And the timing of that is everything. I think anyone listening to this it's involved in hockey would understand. There's a lot of timing that goes into where you end up and what you end up doing.
No, for sure. And you covered a lot of things there, and we're going to get eventually to a lot of those steps that you took. You don't have to bring everything in, but that's okay. But
Sure.
I'm curious, obviously us being Canadian, I mean, I think the answer is pretty obvious. Why did you start playing hockey? But I'm curious, was there an influence of maybe a family member, an NHL team? I was a diehard Leafs fan growing up in Peterborough. For me, the Petes were there, so that kind of got me involved. But kind of what's your story of how you got into hockey?
Mom brought me to the rink, and my mom has three brothers who are my uncles. And I would say this: one played at BU, one played at Colgate, one played at RPI. So it was definitely a hockey family. And I didn't know much about that at that age, but I would say those were the influences that, hockey was the thing to do. And I ended up being pretty good at it. So once that happens, you kind of find your way and go from there. One thing that was unique, I was born in February of 75. And in that time, if you were born so early in that year, you went ahead with the grade ahead of you. So I was in school with 74s a year ahead, but I played sports with all the 75s. So I almost had two ages of friends in the city I grew up. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like you could say from the school point, you were with the older kids, like you were the youngest one and
Oh, yeah.
and making friends at that age group, but then you also had your hockey friends who were your own age. So you kind of got a little taste of both sides there, which is always interesting. And you mentioned something that is very, I think, changed a lot in minor hockey, at least from when me and you played minor hockey, was the team you played for, like the organization you played for, was normally the organization you played for your whole life. It was so hard to get out. Like you needed special circumstances and all these permissions and letters to leave if you wanted to, depending on the area you were in. But I believe, like, what was the Niagara Falls team called? The Thunder growing up?
I don't even think we had a name. It was a Thunder at one point, but I was probably 15, 16 at that point. That's when the junior eight, the OHL team was in there. We were called that. I couldn't even tell you what they're called now. I honestly don't know. Maybe Junior Canucks. Maybe Junior Canucks.
Could be. I don't remember either.
But it was just Niagara Falls kind of thing. Didn't really have a name.
And then,
because
like as I mentioned, like you went on to go the NCAA route, which we'll talk about soon.
yeah,
But
sure.
I'm always curious. Was there ever thought of the other route? Like us growing up in North America, like the OHL was always the first thing we knew about. Like all our friends were going there, wanting to get drafted, all stuff like that. Like, had you ever thought about the potential of going the OHL major junior route?
We had a pretty good team growing up. So we got to about, what was it, 15? I don't even know the draft age. We had a pretty good team. We were always pretty good in Ontario compared to other teams. We'd always, get to the finals or the semifinals or quarter. Like we'd win our district and stuff, that kind of thing. We had probably 5 guys drafted. I would tell you at that point, I was so small, there was no way I was getting drafted at the OHL. I was just tiny. Probably my draft year, I was probably 5'7" and like 125 pounds or something. Like, just that's not getting drafted back then, right? Size was way more of a concern, and yeah, and I think there's still 15 rounds plus, maybe more. Yeah, I didn't expect to get drafted. It was just too small. It's not even close.
It's amazing how it's changed, eh? Like back then it was all
Yeah,
about like size and
yeah.
grit and whatever. And now it's about like the small guys with skill and speed are also more
Oh yeah, no. If
prominent
you
now.
can play, I feel like you have a better chance now, regardless of your size. If you can play and your speed, you still got to be strong on your feet and get away from people. But yeah, it's definitely changed. So yeah, the draft, I would have loved that. Just wasn't in the cards. And right around that age, yeah, you start to be like, okay, what? I didn't get drafted, so I'm kind of getting left behind. What's the next step? You know, and that's where, hey, junior C, junior B, right? In my town, at least.
Okay, so that was bringing me to the
Yeah.
next question. I
There
like
you go.
you said I was gonna date you, and I'm dating you because I was like looking at this. I'm like the Chippewa Merchants,
Yeah, man.
NDJCHL, and I'm like, that has to be like a junior B, junior C. Like I had no idea. I know the
Yeah,
Canucks are junior B, like you played after, but
yeah.
um, maybe talk about taking that first step to junior. Obviously playing junior C there in Chippewa, and yeah, how the experience was for you.
Well, it was, yeah, after your midget year, they called it midget. What would it be, U16 now? Something like, I think they call it that. Yeah. Didn't get drafted, so it's like, okay, what can I do? What can I play? Tried out for junior Bs and was like the junior B team, which was the team I would have wanted to play for at that age, and just last cut. And coach was like, and I think it was the right call. I don't. There's no begrudging or anything. It was. I was right on the cusp of. If I had played on that team, I wouldn't have played a lot. I might have been the healthy scratch D for the whole year. That kind of role. And he even said, if you go to junior C, you'll play more and you'll have a better experience. I remember him saying that, and he was right. And just went to junior C, had a great year, got to play a lot. Just really, it was the right thing for me, and it was good. It was good. So that's how I ended up there. That they're now called the Riverhawks, and friends of mine own that team. So
Funny,
it's wild.
funny how it's come full
And
circle almost.
they were in London with me on that trip that I just told you about. It's
Okay.
just a crazy world. But yeah. So that junior team's been in our, and they're in a different rink now and stuff. But yeah, it was, and I was fortunate that was there because that was a great opportunity to play at a higher level, play against 20-year-olds when you're 16, really young. Yeah, it was great. Like it helped me a lot. It was you can compare yourself to others, and if you do that, you'll be unhappy. Some of my friends were moving up. They were just bigger and stronger. The right place for me was junior C at the time, and it worked out really well.
I think you brought up a good point about the playing time because I've had many guests on
Yes.
this podcast where it's been players are trying to get to the highest level as fast as they can, but then they end up not getting the minutes that they might get with one more year of midget or one more year of junior B, whatever it is. So I think for you, it obviously helped you eventually make that jump to junior B, which you ended up doing there for the Niagara Falls Canucks.
Yep, did that. And that yeah, that was a great team. And Terry Masterson, who's a legendary coach down in Niagara Falls, he was back with the team, and he always put together a good team. And he had a huge budget, and just I was lucky enough that he saw me as part of that. And I think that year we probably had 13, 14 guys from Niagara Falls and imports, and he always had good players. So the team was going to be very good. We ended up winning. We went as far as we could and won the Ontario Championship. So that was another amazing experience. And if I hadn't played Junior C, I wouldn't have been able to. It just would have been different, I think. I came in at the right time. And, just a great year. First ring I ever got, like a championship ring, it was so neat. I still have it. It's in my office here. And that's a coach. My junior C coach was good. I learned a lot from him. My junior B coach, I've incorporated quite a bit of what I do from him. So at 19, 20 years old at that point, a little older, and I still remember just I always thought, wow, if I could do what he does, which he coached. That's what he did. It would be, that would be awesome.
Which, as you mentioned, like a great way for you to end kind of your true
Oh, yeah.
junior career is winning the Ontario Championship and getting that ring, as you mentioned. And after that, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember the history of Niagara. You ended up going to Niagara University, which at the time was D3. I think they were a brand new program. Were they not?
So I would tell you, playing junior B, you got to have a visual here. Like long, bleach blonde hair, red beard, and it was patchy, man. I couldn't grow a beard. I'm like 19, so I couldn't barely grow a beard. And I got recruited to this place called Niagara University, and they're starting a program. Another guy in the league I knew had committed there. And myself and Nate Hanrahan were on the junior B team, the Canucks. And Nate had been talking to the coach, Blaise MacDonald. That's just right. He was starting a program and he came from Boston University. So who do I call? My uncle. I'm like, hey, what do you know about the coach from BU? Like, well, they did a good job. They won a national championship. So this guy's coming from BU to go to Niagara to start a program. The internet was non-existent at this point, right? So you had to kind of do your research, and you just whatever people said on the phone was what was the information you were getting. So I never forget this. My teammate Nate was like, hey, he went on a visit, saw everything, and he's like, it looks really good. It looks like it could be really good. They were building the rink on campus. He's like, this could be awesome. It's close to home. It's college. And at that point, I maybe had fielded a couple of calls from like Canisius, I think Elmira, like just, it was lukewarm interest. That's what I wanted to do that. I was going to actually go to Wilfrid Laurier or York. So I was kind of set up to do that. I had applied to those schools, so I knew I was going to college. And my father's like, hey, listen, you heard that coach was interested in you, right? I go, yeah, in passing, I did hear that. He goes, why don't you give him a call? And I when you're 19, you're so cool that you're like, no, he'll call me if he's interested. You can see yourself saying that, right? He'll call me.
The immaturity might force me to say something like that.
Could you be more of an idiot? Like just more immature and essentially said, no, he'll call me if I'm interested. He goes, you better make that phone call. I got the number because he somehow got the guy's number, my dad, and he never stuck his nose in anything. My father was a very good hockey parent. He's like, I got this number from so-and-so. He goes, I've heard he's interested in you. You should make the phone call. And so I'm like, all right, fine. So I make the call, leave a voicemail. He calls me back in 3 minutes. And like we set up a visit and bang, I'm sitting in Connecticut right now. So that's a little bit quick, but I go on the visit. Loved everything about it. Just me on the visit. No parent, just me on the visit. And I'm, at this point I'm 20, and he's like, here's what we could do for you. What do you think? I committed on the spot. I just knew this would be the right spot for me. It felt right. It was good. I had seen a couple other campuses in different variations, and there was just a lot going on there. And the new program thing was pretty neat. But I honestly just wanted to keep playing hockey. I didn't want to grow up, because at that time I was working. I wasn't even in school. I was working. I was working at an auto glass shop. So you're just gonna laugh. I was like tinting windows and fixing auto glass and playing junior hockey. So the idea of going to college and playing hockey, that was very appealing to me.
The fake bubble life, like the college life, I've explained to so many people, it's not reality, because you do live in a bubble for your 4, I guess now 5 years, depending on how long you stay, is like you're literally on a scholarship, most people, or have some sort of financial help to play a sport, do school, which we'll say is second, but it probably isn't for a lot of athletes, and then also whatever you do with your teammates on the side. And it's as I said, it's fake life for 4 years, and allows you to still be, like you mentioned, to be, I don't know if a kid is the right word, but to be young and immature, I would say, for another couple more years before hitting the real world.
Yep. And and in a weird way, and I've said this to people, I learned more about life, real life, in the 2 years I worked doing auto glass. And I was basically managing a business at 18, 19 years old. I learned more about real life in those 2 years than any business class at Niagara or anything else. And I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that. And I think the experience I had when I went to Niagara, I valued it more. I was a 75% student, 80% student max in high school, because I was half-assing it. And when I went to Niagara, I'm like, I'm going to be good at everything. I don't give a shit. I'm not 17, 18. I'm not taking this for granted either. Like it was very important to me. And I was going to have a good time. Christ, I was as old as the seniors when I showed up there. Right. And I just was so grateful for that opportunity, and loved my coach and had a good experience. And I was playing a lot too. Like all of that adds up. All of that adds up. So
you also wore a letter for your whole time
years.
there.
Yeah. I was the first captain, and that was actually really difficult, but what an honor. And the team voted on that, and that was something special for sure. But yeah, just to see the evolution of our program, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I look back at it. You've been taking me down memory lane, like just the events that have happened. I would say I took advantage of the opportunity of going to Niagara big time. I wasn't messing around. It was really important to me, man. School and hockey was really important to me. I wanted to do well. I applied myself, I guess you would say. And you could see it. You could see we had teammates that just, their priorities were a little off. Obviously, they were more into maybe the party and then the school. And as time went on, they dropped off. But it just, having those priorities right and building a program was really neat to experience. And it was D3 to start. And just from year 1 to year 2, we won the championship in the league year 2. Like it was a very quick climb. I talked to Blaise the other day, and he was like, it was significant that you guys won that in that second year. He goes, I wasn't sure we could do it, but it was significant. I go, well, we were all 23 years old at that point. Like, what do you mean? We were older than every team in the world, I feel like. But he's like, no, it was good. So, but yeah, there were some wild things in those first 4 years of that program.
What happened? Like, how did they get promoted? Because obviously,
so the plan was to be promoted all along because it was a Division I school. And basically what happened was the first 2 years we played in the ECAC East or West Division. And there were some good teams, man. RIT was awesome. Elmira, I think Hobart. Like, think of this, some of these teams are good. We were in that league. And the first year we couldn't even play in the playoffs. So I think we came in second or third. But we couldn't be in the playoffs for some reason. There was a reason. Probably because we were a new program. We couldn't just come in and do that. And then the second year we won it. And then that third year, we were promoted. We were going to play a Division I independent schedule, and we only played like 28 games, 27 games. So, and the first game was like literally Michigan, and we beat them, which is crazy. Two of the craziest games I've ever seen. Like we lost 6-5 in overtime, and then beat them 2-1 or 3-1 or something. Some stupid. I forgot. It was wild. That was, and then the last year we were in the CHA, which is now like Atlantic. You could go back and see the divisions.
But yeah, it's the
God,
Atlantic now, but the CHA was there. My first year Niagara was the last year of the CHA.
Bemidji, Air Force. I mean, the league was crazy.
We had 4 teams. We had Robert Morris, us, Bemidji, and Alabama Huntsville. Like nowhere near
air miles, like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, well, I felt bad for Alabama Huntsville. They that was when Cam Talbot was there, and like they would bus everywhere. They had like the buggy hooked up to the back of the bus, and like they'd be on the road for 18 hours. And I had a buddy go there, and he said it was so much fun. But yeah, the travel was.
No, yeah, you make it what it is. I mean, if you like anything, if you think it's going to suck, you'll confirm that in your head that it's going to suck. Like you make it what it is. I could always be doing auto glass back in Niagara Falls, or I could be working at a wax museum in Niagara Falls. Literally, those are 2 of the jobs I had growing up. And I'm like, all right, so whatever I'm doing, if I look back at that, it's like I'm ahead of the game all the time, all the time.
Talk about that last year, because you guys made the tournament. You went on a run. I just remember like being on my visits, like obviously Greg Gardner, who was your goalie and then became the assistant coach and recruited me there. Like he had a hell of a season, up signing a pro contract in North America because of it. But everyone always talked about that year, that run. I guess it was the first one, and obviously the program's young history.
We knew we were going to have a good team. The pairwise rankings were a big deal. We were an older team, 15 seniors. We just went on a run. We started winning games and doing well. And, right towards the end of the season, we knew, all right, we win a few games here, we're going to put ourselves in a spot. We still didn't know. There was no automatic bid in our league. So you didn't know if you were going to make the NCAA tournament, but we kind of did what we were supposed to do. Yeah, man, it was us against the world. It was just us against the world. And then we just go, we had played enough big time programs over those years. Like we beat BU that year. They came in first place in Hockey East. We beat them. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We went to Colorado College. They were a top 15 team. We beat them. Like it's at Colorado College. Like you do the math. We started doing these wins. So we were 5th in the pairwise. And then so we get into the NCAA tournament, and I remember like UNH. We're playing UNH, perennial powerhouse, awesome program, the whole deal. Like no one gave us a shot. Beat them. We just see. I guess at that point, we had seen enough, and we weren't really afraid of anything. We just weren't. We were all like, God, I was 25 years old at that point. And there were a few great players on UNH. We lost to North Dakota. They won it. And we had a great game with them. They were better than us. But, man, it was just what a run. For a small school to do that, it was neat. And I've even applied some of those lessons that I learned with that to what I do here now. You have to have the right people, and you have to have people that enjoy being around each other for 24 hours a day, because you live with these guys, right? That's the thing. You have to be able to like to spend time with them.
No, for sure. And obviously, as you mentioned, you guys had a good group there at Niagara, and after that senior year, you end up trying the pro game, which I think I recommend anyone, if you can go play pro for even if it's 1 year, like go get an experience. And you end up going to Finland. So how was your experience going to Finland, and how was the living culture, the difference in lighting in certain seasons, the hockey, all that?
It was really good. It's funny. I tell people this and they laugh. So Bill Zito was my agent. is the GM of Florida now. So it all started with me. That's what I say. But no, that's actually not the case. So Bill was really aligned with another agent, Marcus Leto, who I think he's with Wasserman now. He was lined up in Finland, and I had interest in Finland, and through just connections and that kind of thing, I just ended up in a spot, Uvascular, like good a story program in that league, right? Story franchise in that league, whatever you want to call it. How did I like it? Loved it. Hockey was great. I look back, it was a huge jump from college to that, huge, almost probably too much. I got better as a player, and it was really good. The lighting, yep, it's dark by 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's dark. It was good. Our team was destined to be in the bottom 3-4 spots of the league. We didn't have the guns that these other teams had. So over the course of 55 games, you weren't going to get to that spot. We had won 6 in a row, and the place was going bananas. And the fans were incredible. From like, you could be in last place or whatever. It didn't matter who you were playing. They loved it. But yeah, Finland, man, it was great. I had teammates in Niagara, and their families, I would hang out with them. Like at Christmas, I'd hang out with my teammates' families. They weren't even there. They were back in Niagara playing, and I'd be hanging out in their, like, their cabin or cottage for Christmas and stuff. So it was good. It was really good. I would have went back. And I had opportunities to go to France, Czech Republic, different things. I often wonder what my life would look like if I had kept playing. But, just at that time, and you may know, like when I got back from Finland, Blaise MacDonald took a new job at UMass-Lowell. And that's kind of what started my coaching career right there.
It's all about timing, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Another great transition. We're on chem right now with these transitions. So
oh yeah.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. So obviously after that year, you make the decision to get into coaching, and someone that you had played for, that recruited you, who knew you well, gets a new position at UMass-Lowell and takes you along, and you end up being there for 8 seasons. I believe he was there for all 8 as well. Maybe talk about first the transition to coaching, obviously the things maybe you learned, or the things that maybe over the years you realized looking back that you weren't ready for, because it obviously is something different. And also maybe talk about the impact that Blaise MacDonald has had on, your career as a player and and a coach.
Yeah. So I got back that summer, kind of just living that pro hockey life. Like, wow, okay, off for the summer. Had my agent working on different things, different options. Blaise calls. He's got an assistant coaching job opening in Lowell. And I knew Hockey East was, and still is, God, they're doing great, right? Hockey East was like, that was an opportunity that I always knew I wanted to go to coaching. I always knew it, and he knew it too. So I told him, I said, look, I'd like to be a coach at some point. Just seems like an incredible life. And he knew that. So he had a job opening, and was it a tough decision? Yes, but not really, because I just knew. And he said it to me. He's like, to get an assistant coaching job at Lowell your first year as a coach is like you're almost 5 years ahead of the game. Like you would almost have to wait 5 years or do something. So that made sense. And I was just like, you know what? I think this is what I want to end up doing. I'm just going to do it now. So I probably had a few more years in me, but I just said, you know what? I want to coach. Let's do it. And started there. Now, the impact Blaise has had, he got me into college hockey, and he got me into coaching. So I'd say, yeah, other than my parents, he's probably had the most impact on my life of anyone. And that's, I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity that he's given me. I hope I did him proud, I would say. Yeah. And I just think that was a learning curve. I made the decision like, hey, you're not going to miss playing, just dive into coaching. And I kind of held myself to that standard pretty good. And I enjoyed it. I mean, God, man, there were guys like only a couple years younger than me, but when I was coaching, we had 24-year-old, 25-year-old players, and I'm like 26. So, it was good. I learned a lot, got better. The number one thing I did was watch a ton of video in my time at Lowell. And I was there the whole 8 years I was there. We'll talk about this, but the whole 8 years I was there, Blaise was there. And it was a great experience. Some big time coaches in that league at the time: Jack Parker, Jerry York, Dick Umili. Sean Walsh had just passed on from Maine, but like the fingerprints of that program were unbelievable. So just seeing what all those teams do and how they do it and trying to go against them was a crash course in college hockey and coaching. I could tell you that.
I think Blaise's advice to you kind of about like if you were to take the job at such a young age, like if we're all being honest, like we want to play pro and until we can't anymore, and play till 40 and make a living, and then you get into coaching. But like for someone like yourself that had this, again, timing opportunity come up, and I like anyone who coaches NCAA, I'm actually extremely like jealous of them or impressed by them, because I think it is actually the best job in hockey. Like everyone says NHL is great, like I get it, like you're the top of the top, but I think for like longevity and also like building programs, all that, I think like college is the best. Maybe you can comment on it more, obviously being involved in it for so long.
I am now. Some coaches can get worn out by this. I choose not to be worn out by it, but I'm the GM of my team. I'm the head coach, and there's more responsibility with that. But I'm signing the players that fit to our program. I hope that makes sense. Professional coaches are handed a team. They're like, go do your thing. And you may have had or may not have had, depending on the relationship. You may or may not have any say in the players you have. Because I pick the players. I don't draft them, but I pick them. But I have to put more into it. Okay, so here's what I say to people. And I have an uncle who's in professional hockey in the NHL, so I challenge him on this. We sign our players to 4-year deals. We can't trade them. And we have to put a lot of stock in their personality and how they'll fit the program. An NHL team signs into this, what I would say is a very easy contract, that 3-year entry deal. They can trade them at any time for the most part. And they can sign 10 guys to fill one spot. So we put a little more work into that relationship piece and making sure they're a good fit. So we literally, in my opinion, we dive into kids more to get to know them, their families, all that stuff. So it's, I can't trade my problems away.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about the portal in a minute, whatever, but I can't trade them away. So I really have to I don't have to be perfect, but I have to be good at finding the right fit for my program.
Well, that one coach just is it David Carl, the Denver coach? Like he was interviewing for NHL jobs, and in the end, said no to some teams in a sense, and then was like, I'm gonna go back to Denver and sign a multi-year extension. So like to me, like that got me thinking about it. Like, maybe it's sometimes it isn't always, there's many factors, but like maybe some people do realize that the college route is obviously a very sustainable career choice in that way.
If you're making, look, if an NHL team wanted me to coach and they were giving me millions of dollars, that would get my attention. But I don't know, and I'm on the women's side. I don't know what would pull me away from this, to be honest with you. I don't know. Millions of dollars might do it, but it'd be for the money, not for what I think is a better situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth. Like my family's fed. I make enough money. I have a unique setup here. My lights just went out. Hold on, in my office because I'm not moving around. But this is a good spot. Yeah, UConn, we're supported. Everything's in a good spot, and we're good. We work a lot, but I choose not to get burnt out. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, for sure.
Some coaches just, I talk to professional guys I know, and they're kind of, I hear about their issues and stuff. I wouldn't want those issues. I can control a lot of my issues with decisions of essentially who I'm bringing in the program. Hold on one sec. Just put my lights on. So it is a good life. I would agree. I think it's good. Is it the best? I haven't done professional hockey. Professional hockey seems awfully much, professional hockey coaching seems awfully much like professional hockey. And I liked the college experience. I'll just speak for myself. I just thought it was good. You're in it together a little bit more, I think, in college. I could be wrong, but
No, I've always been fascinated with
yeah,
the coaches, both men and women sides, who have these long 30-year careers at certain schools or maybe go to one or two and then, they're 10 years at every one. So I just think like in terms of like what you mentioned, like the pro game is always interesting and you can make millions in it if you do well, but also you can have a good living at the college level and maybe the more longevity of it and more sustainable. But back to UMass-Lowell there, I wanted to bring up you coached two guys who one I played with because he's from Burlington, and then the other one I played against and was thankful that he left the league after my first year junior there. You coached Michael Budd and David Valeriani, who
yeah.
Budd is from Burlington, so obviously I played junior with him. He was a year older than me. I knew him growing up, and then obviously, as I mentioned, David Valeriani was a powerhouse player on the Milton Ice Hawks. But I'm sure was funny. Like that guy, every time I see him, the rare times I do, he just makes me laugh, and he's just got
Yeah.
that goofiness to him, and he has great stories too. But it was cool to see at that point, like in my life, like I just finished my first year of Tier 2 junior, and it was cool to see like guys from our leagues going to schools like that, like as you mentioned, joining the Hockey East and competing for like a school like Lowell.
Yeah. Yeah. We were pretty active in Ontario at the time, pretty active in British Columbia and the USHL. Those were probably the three main areas we were recruiting. And then throughout New England. At Lowell, it's funny, and I still see it now. Lowell's a great option for someone from Massachusetts, but there's a lot of schools to pick from in Massachusetts. So if you're from the Boston area, look at all the options you're potentially having. Where in Ontario, they know they're traveling wherever they're going, so they're more open-minded. And same with BC and the USHL, they're a little more. They're thinking, I want to play in Hockey East, so you have a more of an in. So it was an interesting recruiting matrix. But Bud was great, talented, strong forward, good along the walls. Yeah, and I would say you're right, like kind of goofy, fun-loving guy. Just go with the flow for sure. And then Val, we were excited to get Val because he was just such a good offensive player, super talented, and just really just came up with. The last year I was coaching there, like really some key moments, key opportunities, goals, that kind of stuff. He was fun to watch, entertaining for sure. So we were happy to get him. I think he was looking at the OHL, like that was a real interesting scene. He was potentially going to go to the O or college, and we just kind of said, all right. So he came in a little young for us, but it was worth it. We had to do that at that time. We weren't going to make him wait till he was 20. So he came in a little young, but he came in and he was good, really talented.
Oh, for sure. As I mentioned, I was happy when he left the league. I didn't have to face him anymore, and
Yeah.
we played him in the playoffs, I think, that year, and then we played them the next year too. So yeah, he's definitely burned me a couple times high. I want to get to this transition here, which I think is really interesting. So you spent 8 years at UMass-Lowell as an assistant coach, and you end up making the transition to Niagara University. For those listening, they're like, "Oh, nice, he went back to his alma mater, like where he started."
Yeah.
But actually, you took a head coaching job on the women's side.
Yeah.
And there might be people out there that would have said, "Why the hell is he doing that
Yeah.
when he's had so much success?" Like that's nothing to shame women's hockey. It's just kind of given how your career had gone. But maybe talk about, what made you take that opportunity at Niagara University on the women's side and how the transition was obviously coming from the men's side. Because at the end of the day, there is differences. You're dealing with different types of human beings every day. Maybe some things you didn't know going into. Like, how was that transition for you?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much. the hockey piece. It was more of being an assistant for so long to becoming a head coach. And then I would tell you, moving my family from Boston, and my wife had been in Boston literally, I want to say 15 years, to go to Buffalo, which, you know, that you would say on paper that doesn't look that different. Buffalo's a Midwest town. It's not really like Boston's East Coast, man. It's different. Lowell is East Coast. It's different. So that move had its challenges. And then going from an assistant to a head coach, that certainly had its challenges. And it's an adjustment for any coach that goes from assistant to head coach. It's a big adjustment. And then going back to my alma mater was really good. But why did I do it? We were going to start a family, and this was just an awesome opportunity at a school. Like my plan was to be there forever, for sure. And it just I love Niagara. My parents are from Niagara Falls. It's right there. Like, this was a good setup, and you know, that was more of a personal decision than anything. And my wife was on board, and great. And it was it was an awesome experience. I'm happy I did it, and it's led me to where I am. So how do you can't be upset about anything, right? But the plan was to be there forever, and my daughter was born in Buffalo. So the short answer was a personal decision with our family to do it. I had no issues with going from men to women because my sister had played. She'd been an elite player in women's hockey. She won a national championship at Concordia in the Canadian side. And she was in Europe playing. And, you know, I had coached some of her teams. When she was in Australia, I coached one of her teams. And, you know, for anyone that would ever tell you, like, women are way easier to coach. They actually listen. And I was excited for that. And Lowell, I felt like I was leaving Lowell in a good spot. We had just made it to the Hockey East final, and we were the preseason number one going into that year. So that summer, I was like, no, Lowell's in a good spot. I felt like I could leave there in a good place, and just decided to go to Niagara. It was good.
They like, speaking of Lowell, just briefly, couple years later, would they lose in the national championship final that year? I was there in Boston, I think, or they were in the Frozen Four at least. I remember Hellebuck was their goalie.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think they beat somebody the first game, because like another buddy of mine, Colin Wright, was there, and then I think BU played BC in the semis, and BU won. A guy I was with Oswego, we just drove down because his brother was Paul Rodriguez, who now plays for Florida.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Evan Rodriguez. Paul was the brother. And anyways, it was a cool experience. Like, I'd never been to the Hockey East there. Sorry. And yeah, it was good to see that program do well.
Yep.
I think I mistake that. They won the Hockey East championship that year. That's what that was. It wasn't the Frozen Four. It was the Hockey East championship, because they beat BU in the finals, and Hellebuck was the reason, and got like MVP. And
he's great.
He was great. You went up, as you mentioned, you stayed 2 years there at Niagara. I think a year after you left, they ended up losing their women's program, which was unfortunate. Got cut for funding, I think. But you do 1 year as an assistant at Ohio State on the women's side, and then you land where you've been since at UConn, University of Connecticut, on the women's side. How did that opportunity come about, and how have you tried to build your program over the years? As you mentioned, you're the coach, you're the GM, recruiting young athletes there. Like, how's the plan been, I guess, going for you in terms of building that program?
Yeah, really well. How did it happen? Let's see. My wife's from Connecticut. The UConn job opened up. I'm at Ohio State. Loved Columbus. Loved the situation. My son was about to be born. This is May of 2013. We had a good team at Ohio State. We were, you know, that was a great job, great experience. Go from a place like Niagara to Ohio State, the contrast is unbelievable, you know, just unbelievable, right? So just gained a wealth of experience there. The UConn job came about. I applied, went on the job interview, and was kind of like, all right, I'm 50-50. I'm really happy at Ohio State. I don't need to be a head coach. You know, it's fine. And just that job interview, that day and a half I was there, I just kind of fell in love with the place. And the thing I noticed the most were a couple of things. One, it seemed like an easy place to recruit athletes to, and specifically female athletes. And it seemed like all these coaches, there were a bunch of coaches here that have been for like 10 plus, 20 plus years. So that spoke to me like, okay, this is a good place. So they offered me the job. We decided to take it. At this point, we had moved from Boston to Buffalo to Columbus and now UConn. So just the amount of moves. Anytime you move your family, man, it's challenging. So I give my wife a ton of credit. And just we started at UConn. It was a 3-win team. Like, or you could say arguably one of the worst teams in college hockey. And so what happened, just slowly but surely try to with the right people. And, you make some mistakes along the way thinking, all right, here's some talent, and you'll overlook a few things, maybe character wise. I would not do that again, but I'm happy I did because I learned from it. But ultimately, what we found was we did a good job of, everyone knows who the top tier recruits are. Everyone wants them. If we felt like that was genuine interest from them, we'd stick it out. But we've kind of understood we weren't going to get the top. So we tried to get that B recruit and really do a good job. So we built most of our program on the so-called next level kids, but the ones that worked the hardest and were the hardest to play against, because we felt like those players would elevate to at least meet that next
chip on their shoulder, something to prove.
You got it. And like that, Niagara at the time was built on kids like that, players like that. So I kind of could pick up on that. At that point, I had enough experience with just Lowell and with Niagara and stuff that I felt like, okay, this was a good part. So we made incremental improvements. We were blessed with some really good players too, right off the bat. But the team really had a mindset that once it was 1-0, they kind of couldn't never come back. And we just slowly just started to hang around in games better and get better. And it was a rewarding process for sure. And we're in year 12 now. And it kind of, I'd say after year 5, the culture and the team kind of run itself. And I just got to make sure 90% of this is just bringing in the right people. That the best advice I got was from my uncle, who's, he's been in the NHL scouting. He just said, just get kids that want to be in your program. If you're overselling the talented kid that's kind of holding you off because they want to go to another school, like just go with the kid that is close to them talent-wise but wants to be at your school, because you're going to get more out of them. And he's so right. He's so right. So it took me a while to really dive into that, but now it's just, it makes life a lot easier. You've had teammates that don't want to be where they are, and you know what it's like. It's not good.
No, and as you mentioned, you want to build and have people that want to be there and maybe have something to prove versus someone that only went there because it was their only choice or whatever. They're thinking about the next step. And obviously, like, the strategy paid off for you guys. As you said, when you got there, they were like a 3-win program, and I believe it was not the season that just passed, but the season before, 23-24, you guys up winning the Hockey East Conference Championship and get a NCAA Tournament appearance. So that must have been like for you, like felt good, and obviously seeing the program grow, and obviously for your athletes, your players, like they must have just been a season to remember, I would say.
Yep. I think it's funny that they say, what are some of your proudest moments? Obviously, winning that championship in the regular season and winning the conference championship, going to the NCAA tournament for the first time as a program are huge. I think a lot of that groundwork was done in 2018. I remember this team specifically. We had high aspirations. We were probably picked 4th or 5th in the league, which was appropriate. We couldn't win a game in the first half. We were in last place. We were in last place in late January. And we ended up just going on a run. And the most important thing, why I'm telling you this, the kids, the team didn't change and they didn't revolt against each other. They just kept put their head down and worked, and they stuck together. And that to me is like when things aren't going well, that's when you find out what it's all about. When everything's good, winning puts a shine over a lot of shit. Like there was every reason for people to just implode and give up and not be in a good place. This team just put their head down. We went on a run and we were 7th seed in the tournament. We ended up going to the final. We knocked off number 2 Providence. We had a great team that year. Knocked off number 1 BC. And then just got in the final, and we lost to Northeastern, but it was like, what a run. And it proved to me we were kind of on the right track. So ever since 2018, we've kind of been a top 4 team in the league and very consistent. And I give them a lot of credit for getting us there. And it just makes it's nice that our process kind of paid off. And then, success happens. So now when you get a little bit of success, some of those recruits are more apt to listen to what you're talking about. So we're happy. Like I'm happy. We're getting success, but we're not changing too much about what we want to do. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and for those recruits, it obviously, like, now you have a winning track record, so it proves like the way that you feel UConn should play or what type of recruits they should get obviously is working. There's some data to back it up. You know what I mean? How have you seen the women's game change over the years? Like, obviously you've been involved in it for almost 15 years now, and I know in North America they have that new professional league that's done great in terms of attendance. I believe they're in their 2nd or 3rd year, but how have you, like, being inside the game, being on that side of it, seen it progress over the past 5-10 years?
The game is bigger, stronger, faster than ever before. We have some tremendous athletes on our team. I have 2 players that are looking to probably squat 400 pounds in September. So, Harris, do you want to put 400 on your back right now? Think about that for a second.
My back would shatter.
Yeah, exactly. I said the same thing. I'm like, hey, that's a lot. So, some people have a vision of what women's hockey is, and I think if they saw my team or a lot of others, or even the professional, they'd be shocked at how good. I think it's just developed every year, and it's gone at such a rapid pace, and it's a game that's growing in numbers too, which is awesome. But yeah, I would say just even 5 years ago, some of those players would have a hard time keeping up with today's players. I've seen an evolution where my best player as a freshman is like almost getting overtaken by the freshman when she's a senior. Like they're coming in ready and developed, and look, there's a lot of skills coaches out there. There's a lot of training now. We run a summer camp 10 years ago. 10 years ago, a lot of them didn't know like what a plank hold was or like an Olympic lift. And now we're at a camp and it's like they're all training. They all know what these things are. And it's just so the evolution has been tremendous just as athletes. We can argue here and there about hockey sense and different stuff, but the athlete you have on the ice can do a lot more things now. It's impressive.
No, for sure. And I saw that like in my years of like coming back from pro, and you're going to a workout group that is run by like a company gym or whatever, and there's young girls in there who are learning how to lift at such a young age, like young hockey players, and they competed just as hard, if not harder, than some of us, and you could see the improvements every year. So obviously someone like yourself that's physically involved every day and stuff like this, and at a higher level too, I'm sure for you see it tremendous, and I hope it keeps continuing to grow. I got one more question for you. I always end my podcast on this one.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of a thinker out there, but it normally gets good responses. So what is one piece of advice or multiple pieces of advice you would give the younger generation out there?
I would say, and we're talking about what? Aspiring hockey players, coaches, people in hockey.
People in hockey, if you're talking to athletes out there, I guess, who are in maybe like around 16, 17, 18 years old.
I think just understand that your journey is going to be different than everyone else's. I know mine was, I know yours is. All our journeys are different. You have to understand that. And find what's right for you. I know that sounds stupid, but if you're like, I have to be like this person, who says, first off, who says that person's life is perfect? But if you're comparing yourself, you're never going to be happy with anything. I think your journey is your journey. Embrace it, enjoy it, and do what you can with it. You have an opportunity to shape it by how you see things and your attitude. So again, I'm lucky and fortunate. At the same time, I did take advantage of some pretty good opportunities.
And I'm sure there was too, like, just to kind of feed off that, it's not always up. Like it's a roller coaster ride. Like people, you're gonna go through things. You're gonna be, whether it's fired, cut from a team, maybe not given the best opportunity somewhere and have to go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's your path. You can't compare it to other people's. Like, you have to ride your own roller coaster and make the most out of it.
Yeah, I mean, God, this little trip down memory lanes, like, got me thinking about a lot of things. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of battle scars here for sure. But it's been a full life. Like, I'm doing a lot of good things and I'm enjoying it. And I've been on a journey with some really special people, coaches, players, my family. Yeah, that'd be my advice. I think you embrace the journey and enjoy it. And it's everyone finds their way somehow. So it's great. And if you're in hockey, I think if you're in hockey and you love that, I mean, that's a win right there. That's how I see it. Like, I'm in hockey and I enjoy it.
No, very, very good advice there. And I think a lot of real and true points, no sugarcoating to it. And a great way to end the episode. Chris, I appreciate you doing it. Obviously, we haven't seen each other in some time, but
Yeah.
it's been a long day since Niagara and obviously the UMass-Lowell did. But I'm happy to see that you're doing so well at UConn there, and your program since you got there has seen tremendous improvement every year. And as I mentioned, you guys ended up getting the championship there of your division a couple of years ago. And keep going, man. Keep
Thank you.
trucking along, and we'll stay in touch. And for anyone watching, listening, if you want to see some women's hockey and you're in that area, I suggest getting out to a game. Follow them on social media. As Chris mentioned, the game has progressed so much over the years, and it's definitely worth checking it out.
Thanks so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
For those listening, until next week, juice and ciao.